and welcome to this episode of the Capitalized Life and Retirement Show. I'm your host, Matthew Johnson, president and owner of Johnson Wealth and Income Management, a retirement income source located in Clear Lake and Humboldt, Iowa, serving clients in northern Iowa and southern Minnesota. Well, how are you today? Today, I want to explore a topic that I don't think that I've ever heard a financial advisor talk about. If we go back in time and we think about 2020, man, it was rough. It was rough. It was COVID-19. It was pandemic. It was pandemonium. It was rough, as you might remember. But you know what was interesting was during that same time frame, there emerged from our country, from our economy, something called the Great Resignation, where workers said, forget it. I'm not working under these conditions. I'm close enough to retirement. I'm just going to throw in the towel. I'm done. I'm tapping out. And so we look back in that period of time and we say the number of workers that just simply walked off, not that they weren't already sent home, but they literally walked off and resigned and never looked back, was astounding. Well, today, fast forward 5 years, and what's interesting is we have the opposite phenomenon now working and unfolding before our very eyes. This phenomenon that people are working longer than ever before. I would argue maybe longer than what they should. And I want to ask you, do you think you're a part of that camp? Are you in a position where you're working longer than maybe what you should simply because of how you perceive the world, how you perceive what you've worked hard to save, how much you've saved, how much you have to save, what the cost of living will be? Now, if you find yourself in that camp, I don't blame you at all, because let's face it, working longer just gets you a little bit closer to death, so you have less of a time frame from retirement to dying, okay? And I know that sounds terribly depressing, but the reality is that that's what most Americans are feeling right now. And so today, in our episode, The Great Resignation, I want to not only explore why people do it, but I want to explore, number two, what are the consequences of doing it? Because like anything in life, there is always consequences for doing whatever it is we're doing, whether we're eating healthy or whether we're eating poorly. There's going to be consequences. Number three, and most importantly, I want to explore with you, is there a way that maybe you might come to realize that, you know what, you've already got the points on the board to win this game. You've already got all of the necessities to be able to retire and to live the retirement of your dreams. Wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that be just absolutely astounding if you could do it? Well, that's what I hope to explore with you today. Now, if you're here and you're watching this podcast, maybe you're listening to the radio show and you're brand new, I want to say welcome. Welcome to this show. If you've been looking for something that's down to earth, something that's practical, black and white, very English speaking, well, guess what? This might be the show for you. But I want to forewarn you, I don't sugarcoat anything. As a financial advisor and a fiduciary of 27 years, I'm not here to sugarcoat things. I'm here to help you get from point A to point B as safely and as expeditiously as possible. And my area of expertise is income. And you know what? When you think about it, we've been kind of sold a pack of lies where we've been taught, we've been conditioned to believe that the more money you have, well, the more successful you'll be in retirement, the more gratified and fulfilled you'll be. And I suppose that could be true. But when it comes down to it, your retirement and your lifestyle really isn't dependent upon the value of your 401k. What is really dependent upon is how much income you get. You can be worth $1 million, and if you don't have any income, well, you can't do anything. right? You could own $1 million piece of property, but if it doesn't even create the income to cover the property taxes on it, what good is it? You're a millionaire, but you really can't do anything about it, right? So I want to say welcome to the program, because my goal here is to challenge your thinking. My goal is to maybe encourage you, maybe to challenge you, maybe to show you things that you didn't know even existed. But I'm glad you're here. I also encourage you to go to our website, johnsonwim.com. I encourage you to tool around in the website. There's a tremendous amount of information, whether it's financial topic white papers, whether it's past YouTube videos, podcasts, or even radio shows. There's just a tremendous amount of resource there for you. And if you're more into the reading thing, then I encourage you go to any of the major book resellers, look up a copy of my book, The Capitalized Retirement, affordably priced and potentially an absolute priceless piece of information for you to really wrap your arms around and to learn from. So let's get started. So number one, why is it that people would even consider procrastinating on retiring? I mean, isn't the goal to get to retirement as quickly as possible? For some, it absolutely scares you to death, and you might be one of those individuals. As I've said so often on this program, the number one fear amongst retirees is not the fear of dying. It's running out of money. And when you think about it, you're in a position where it is scary, because all your life, all you've done is you've contributed. And now you're being asked to withdraw. And those withdrawals, well, they typically have a tangible impact on what you have in your bucket of money. And so when we started to explore this from a statistical standpoint, 1 in 4 workers in America say that they never plan to retire. That boggles my mind. 25%. Here's the thing. We know that that's not very likely. I mean, I had an uncle, I suppose, and he did have a stroke right there on the foundry floor, in the foundry that he worked at. He literally died right there at work. But for most people, their bodies are going to give up before that happens, and they're going to have to retire. So they might want to continue working. And if you want to, if you love your job, if you have the energy, it gives you purpose in life, I have no problem with you working. I encourage it. It's great. But I also want you to understand that many people are working for the absolute wrong reason. They're misguided. And so here's one that is not very shocking. Over 30% of Americans feel that they can't retire because they haven't saved enough. And that could be from a myriad of different reasons. Maybe they were in a position where they just simply did not get into an occupation or a job or have a relationship with an employer that provided them with the opportunity of being able to save for retirement. They didn't have a 401k. They didn't have a Roth account. They didn't have the 403b. But think about that. 1/3 of Americans are in a position where they haven't saved enough. And I want you to go with your gut. I really do. But I also want to encourage you to get a second opinion. Because what if, as an advisor, as a fiduciary, I see the potential for you to be able to retire, but you don't see it because you're not me? What if you did have all the points on the board to win the game, you just didn't know it? And so here you are, and you're still throwing Hail Mary passes. What a bummer that would be if one of them was intercepted. Here's another one. 50% of workers in America today have already dipped into their retirement savings, not even being retired. And I get it. I get it. The retirement savings account represents the greatest bucket of money of savings that we have. And because 401ks and 403bs, they do provide the opportunity of taking loans. You can take withdrawals, although in some cases there's penalties. The reality is that people can access those accounts. Guess what? If there's not an escape door, if there's not another alternative that they feel is viable, the individuals that need the money, guess what they're going to do? They're going to dip into that 401k. So from a practicality standpoint, now it makes more sense why people are working longer. They had saved money, but they've dipped into it, so now there's less. Now they feel compelled to continue to work. I think there's another factor here, and that is the motivation behind Social Security. When you think about it, Social Security has continually moved the age for what they consider full retirement, right? It used to be 65, then it went to 66, now it's 67. Who knows, by the time I make it there, it might be 70, okay? So I have a feeling the workers today in America are maybe taking it. They're progressively working longer simply because they know, well, if they work longer, Social Security pays based upon the highest 35 years of earnings, they're making more money today than they were 35 years ago. They might as well keep working because it's going to continue to bolster the amount of Social Security benefit that they're going to get. And remember, if you don't take Social Security at full retirement age, but somewhere down the road, you're going to get an 8% delayed credit every year that you delay taking that benefit. So you could be having a full retirement age of 67, turning on Social Security at age 70, and having 24% more income. Who doesn't like that? But the reality is that that could be part of the reason that we see the trend that we do. But as I mentioned earlier, I really want to encourage you to be thinking about the consequences. Maybe we understand the reasons why people do it. Maybe you now have come to an understanding of why you feel compelled to continue to work. But what are the consequences? Now, certainly this isn't to be deterring a person from continuing to work. Again, if you want to work, work. Okay? It's no skin off my nose. But I want you to consider the fact that when you prolong working and you don't retire, you don't slow down, you end up taking and missing opportunities. Now, one of the opportunities that I find so fascinating with my older clients is those that have decided to go back to school. They've decided to go and learn a certain trade, a certain hobby, a certain thing. I have a lady in my mind that she had so desired to learn photography that when she retired, she went down to the community college and she said, you know what? I'm signing up. I want to learn how to take photographs. And she loves it. So I don't care if the idea is to take a master class. I don't care if the idea is to go to a trade school. I don't care if it's going online to a higher education facility or school and getting another degree. Regardless of what it is, you have that opportunity when you're retired where when you're working, you just don't have that time. Another thing that I see that is so gratifying and so inspiring is mentorship. I have a lot of clients that were professionals. One in particular, he was a grain trader. He worked for a cooperative. And this is what he does. He goes around the nation volunteering and mentoring young professionals in the area of grain trading. And it's amazing. He loves it. He also picks up consultant work. So he kind of works and gets paid for it at the same time that he's mentoring. You see, those grain elevators, they say, hey, you come, you teach our guy how to do that. We'll pay you. And he doesn't even consider it work because he loves doing it. He loves volunteering. And oh, that's another thing. Volunteering. When you're working, you don't have a lot of time. And you see, time is your most valuable asset. So when you're retired, you have more time. You have that opportunity to be able to volunteer. You know, there's so many people, so many, and I'm no different. I want you to know that I'm no different. The career that I'm in, the area of service that I have given my life to as an advisor, it's become my identity. And oftentimes that's the way that it works for you and I. where our identity is really tied to the jobs we had. Oh, yeah, he was the car salesman. Oh, yeah, he was the grain sales guy. Oh, yeah, she was the one that worked in that clothing store. It becomes our identity. But the great news, my friend, is that we have an opportunity of being able to recreate a new identity in retirement if we want. When we're working, we give up that opportunity of spending time with friends, with family, seeing our grandchildren grow up. These are all things that we have to consider as true consequences, really the true cost of continuing to work. And again, if you've chosen to continue to work and you're doing it because you know undoubtedly that you haven't saved enough, I don't hold you at fault at all. But let me change and just look at one other thing. I mentioned earlier, and I know it's so morbid. I know it is. But the longer you work, every day you work, you're closer to the day you're going to die. And by narrowing that window, well, you don't have to worry as much, I guess, about the money that you've saved lasting. But let's face it, not every single person is like this, but when you retire, you want to go on trips. You want to take and explore. You want to go see things. And you see, the most ideal time to do that is during your go-go years. I kind of think about retirement in 3 stages. The go-go years are from, say, your mid-60s to your mid-70s. That's your go-go years. That's when you got the energy, you got the vitality, you got the physicality to be able to do these things. I remember going to Greece, and here I am, and I'm 50, and I'm climbing the Acropolis, and I'm thinking, holy moly, how do people in their 80s do this? Okay? So you have to have the energy to be able to do these things. Then you think about from 70s to maybe early 80s. And that's what I call the slow-go years. You're still going, okay, but you're going a whole lot slower, right? And then, of course, you've got your mid-80s and beyond. And that's what I call the no-go years. Even if you want to go, you don't go. Even if I had a team of mules, I couldn't probably drag you out of the house, right? And you see, we don't want to squander that because, again, if you didn't catch it, when you think about it, the most valuable asset you have is not your money. The most valuable asset that you have, my friend, is your time. It's your time. And so, what if? Just what if? What if you did have the points on the board to win the game and you just didn't know it? What if you could retire, but no one had ever told you? What if you were just using your own gut instinct, your own level of knowledge and intellect to determine whether or not you could retire? Because based upon what you know, it doesn't look like you could. But what if you could? This is where aligning yourself with a true financial advisor, a fiduciary, someone who specifically specializes in that of retirement income production, is going to be one of your greatest assets. You see, when it comes to retirement, it's not about the number that you've saved. It's about how much income you get. And I know all of us have been so brainwashed into thinking that you've got to spend your principal to get your income. But my friend, the great news is that you don't have to do that. You see, if you invest with purpose, if you invest specifically for the purpose of income, you're going to be using very different tools than you did when you were focused on growth. You see, you're going from an unknown return when you're focused on growth to now trying to get as much of a known growth as you possibly can. And the ability is astounding. When you consider that $1 million spinning off $60,000 a year in the interest and dividend income that you can spend, that you can spend repeatedly, month after month, year after year, not touching your principal. When you consider making more income than what you're spending so that you have excess dividends to reinvest back into buying more interest and more dividend paying things, growing the income. My friend, this is it's an absolutely amazing peace of mind that comes with being able to have this freedom. The freedom to know that you're no longer relying upon the markets to go in a particular direction. You're no longer sitting there worrying whether or not your money's going to last. You see, the sense of freedom that comes from being able to have your principal become the income producing machine that you need to produce the income that you want, so you can live the lifestyle you want in retirement. That to me is true success. And the great news, it's possible. It's possible really no matter what. Regardless of whether your bucket is small or your bucket's absolutely profoundly large, the principles are still the same. And you see, here's the funny part. We all think that if we want more income, if we're going to aspire to have more income, we have to take on more risk. But it's actually the opposite. You actually have to reduce your risk. Because you see, my friend, the things that create income, those things are safer than things that don't create income. When you think about an index fund that pays you 0.5% in dividend, that's not much. Couldn't have much of a lifestyle on 0.5%. But what if you got 6% and it was consistent? How would that change your life? That'd be a lot better, right? That's what's possible. So I just challenge you, if you happen to be finding yourself in this position where you're procrastinating on retiring because you're just too afraid of the future, get with a true income professional. Sit down with a fiduciary, someone whose area of expertise is that of reducing risk on principal and maximizing the output of income. And have that candid conversation, that discussion, and let them show you, whether it's me or another income professional, what's possible when you put your mind to saving your principal and making it produce income. I'm Matthew Johnson. Thank you so much for watching and listening. And remember, it's up to you to make today a great day.